In the not-too-distant future, Moscow is the backdrop for a romantic encounter between Oleg and Alyona. Oleg, a soldier on a brief 2-week leave, finds himself enjoying a wonderful date with Alyona. Their connection is strong, leading them to share the night together. Simultaneously in Paris, a plane's lights suddenly extinguish as everyone on board falls unconscious. This inexplicable power outage soon engulfs the globe, sparing only a small region of Eastern Europe. Oleg and Alyona witness the hovering drones above Moscow come to a standstill, prompting them to hurry to their hotel's lobby. As they arrive, they find a crowd of people congregating, all eager for information. A news anchor on the screen clarifies that the situation is not the result of a natural disaster. Initially considered the potential terrorist act, it becomes clear that communication with the rest of the world has been severed. A squad of soldiers, commanded by Major Dolmatov, is deployed on a reconnaissance mission to Kirov, a city now shrouded in darkness. Accompanying them is journalist Olga, who is tasked with documenting any findings. Government drones have been sent into the area, but none have returned. The team explores the city, using unique slime lights to illuminate a store they enter. To their shock, they find that all the inhabitants, even the fish in a bowl, are dead. Perplexed by the lack of evidence indicating an attack, they can't help but wonder how everyone perished so suddenly and inexplicably. Continuing their investigation, they inspect various apartments where everything appears untouched, as if life had simply vanished in an instant. Abruptly, an enigmatic creature assaults one of the soldiers. His comrades hasten to his aid, but the being, upon noticing them, seizes the soldier's weapon and flees through a window. The team responds with gunfire, but the bullets seem to have no effect on the creature as it makes its escape. The injured soldier is brought back to their aircraft, and when questioned about his assailant's appearance, he admits that the darkness and chaos of the altercation made it impossible to discern any details. A month later, with over 100 million Russians presumed dead, the government urges the remaining citizens to remain calm. However, religious groups start to assemble, believing the apocalypse is near. In the midst of this, Yura, a civilian living with his Alzheimer's-stricken mother, receives a letter requesting his enlistment in the army. Though leaving his mother behind pains him, Yura ultimately decides to join. As Yura departs for the base, he observes the world's deteriorating state, with just a month being enough for the streets to take on a post-apocalyptic appearance. Yura is assigned to Oleg's unit, where Major Dolmatov and Colonel Marina brief them on the current situation. The darkened cities are under quarantine, and the only remaining power sources exist in Moscow, parts of Belarus, Ukraine, and Finland, an area now referred to as the Circle of Life. Reconnaissance teams that have returned with bodies reveal that the victims died from endogenous neurotoxins, chemicals produced by the human body itself. The newly formed teams are assigned 2 objectives: uncover evidence that might help scientists comprehend the origin of the neurotoxins and venture deeper into the quarantine zone to collect essential resources as Moscow's supplies are dwindling. They must proceed with caution, as numerous teams have already been dispatched, with many failing to return despite their armored tanks. As everyone prepares for the mission, additional volunteers arrive, and Oleg is astonished to see Alyona among them. Suddenly, an alarm blares, signaling an imminent attack. A group of massive adversaries is approaching, prompting the soldiers to assemble at the border between their base and the quarantine zone. Just then, the base loses power, prompting Dolmatov to launch flares for better visibility. As the bizarre creatures draw nearer, the soldiers unleash a hail of gunfire. Despite their efforts, some of the beings breach the base and attack everyone in their path, eventually causing Oleg to lose consciousness. The following morning, Oleg awakens, pinned beneath a dead foe. Yura notices he's alive and calls for assistance to remove the carcass. Upon closer inspection, Oleg realizes that the mysterious creature was actually an enormous bear. In fact, dozens of bear corpses lie strewn across the border, leaving everyone puzzled about their erratic behavior. Olga is also present, capturing footage of the scene for her news coverage. Oleg is escorted to the infirmary, where he is astonished to discover that Alyona is a doctor. She tends to his wounds, and when he winces in pain, she offers comfort with a tender kiss. Concurrently, Marina and Dolmatov deliberate on the subject of sensors, a group of individuals who purportedly acquired unique abilities following the blackout. Marina clarifies that these sensors aren't like superheroes. Rather, they can receive data in their minds similar to how radios pick up signals. The nature of the data and the reason behind this phenomenon remain a mystery. Sasha, the most powerful sensor, is currently housed in a military hospital. Since the blackout, he has been tormented by recurring nightmares featuring an enigmatic bald man. Sasha receives a visit from a man named Zhenya, who claims to have been sent by someone called Id. Zhenya explains that the first wave obliterated all electronics, the second triggered the self-destruction of all living organisms, and the impending third wave will cause any survivors within the quarantine zone to become hostile. With millions affected and their free will eradicated, time is of the essence to halt this catastrophe. Unwilling to get involved, Sasha summons security, but the guards cannot perceive Zhenya and inform the doctor that Sasha must be hallucinating. As the soldiers prepare for their mission, Yura finds himself traveling alongside Olga, who interviews him on camera. Yura confesses that he doesn't mind the current circumstances as they have given his life purpose, which he prefers to being a taxi driver. Upon entering the quarantine zone, they discover demolished tanks and a massive fissure slicing through the buildings, indicating that the third wave may have already commenced. Footage of the devastation incites panic among the remaining populace, leading to widespread riots and a surge in criminal activity. Although the government assures the public that they are addressing the situation, many suspect that their leaders are concealing the truth. The soldiers split into separate units to maximize their coverage. Yura and Olga, members of the 7th group, traverse a wooded area, and a flirtatious chemistry develops between them. Meanwhile, a recuperated Oleg joins the 4th group, which is investigating a small town. As one of the soldiers opens a storage room, an avalanche of metal bars collapses onto him, injuring his leg. The team opts to take shelter in a nearby house while awaiting medical assistance. The following day, Alyona arrives and informs them that the injured soldier must return to Moscow with her to prevent the loss of his leg. Group 7 spends the night in an apartment as well. During breakfast, Yura observes something peculiar about a nearby store. He reviews Olga's footage and confirms that the doors had been closed when they first arrived. Yura and several soldiers enter the store, finding signs of recent activity, which leads them to set up traps. They return to the apartment and patiently wait for the traps to be triggered, but this doesn't occur until nightfall. As the group prepares to depart, Yura requests that Olga remain inside the apartment. He instructs her on using flares to signal for help should they fail to return. Contrary to Yura's instructions, Olga follows the team to document the events. Inside the store, they discover a wounded teenager caught in one of their traps. They bring him to the apartment to provide aid, but the boy retaliates by grabbing a knife and fatally stabbing a soldier. The team members swiftly respond, shooting him down. Concurrently, Sasha steps onto the hospital rooftop for some fresh air and is unexpectedly confronted by Id, the individual Zhenya had mentioned. While Zhenya had been merely a mental connection, Id is physically present and seeks Sasha's assistance. To demonstrate his knowledge of the situation, Id reveals his non-human visage. At that moment, Marina arrives with a group of armed soldiers targeting Id. However, in a sudden twist, the soldiers redirect their weapons towards Marina. Id reveals that he employed his mental abilities to make the soldiers perceive her as Id and himself as Marina, cautioning her not to make any sudden moves. He also insists that he is on Marina's side, but forewarns her that millions like him are converging to bring about humanity's downfall. When Marina inquires about his true nature, Id suggests that humans might regard him as a god. Marina escorts Id to her office for further questioning. Id divulges that he was meant to initiate an irradiation process when the moon was positioned over the oceans. However, due to his error, the moon shielded a portion of Europe from the radiation, resulting in the circle of life. Consequently, everyone within the quarantine zone has become a mindless drone poised to attack. ID species require Earth as a new home since their own star is dying and they desire a planet with a sun. He then uncovers a startling truth about a wave zero that occurred thousands of years prior. The human race is in fact a bioweapon deployed by aliens to annihilate the indigenous population of Earth. The pyramids and underwater cities were constructed by the indigenous populations who were highly advanced. Due to their destructive and colonizing tendencies, humans are considered the ultimate bioweapon. Although they share a significant amount of DNA with ID's species, they lack the psychic abilities possessed by them. Sasha and others are experiencing a resurgence of these abilities due to unintended exposure to radiation. While an army from Id's planet is set to arrive soon, Ra, Id's brother, is already present. Id disagrees with Ra's approach and is determined to locate him. The only person who knows Ra's whereabouts is Sasha, who has been receiving information through his dreams. Suddenly, the teams are under attack by humans who are being controlled by an unknown force. Despite their best efforts to defend themselves, the teams are outnumbered and quickly run out of ammunition. Yura and Olga take refuge in an apartment, but it is destroyed in an explosion. Yura instructs Olga to signal for help with a flare, but resources are scarce, and many other teams are doing the same. The few remaining members of Team 7 take refuge on a rooftop to avoid the attackers. Marina's conversation with ID is interrupted when she receives a message about the attack. ID advises Marina that they are wasting time and should take action. Accompanied by Zhenya and Sasha, Id and Marina travel to the base. During the journey, Id reveals his immortality, which depends on no one deciding to kill him. Once they arrive at the base, Id places Sasha in a trance, enabling him to pinpoint Ra's location, which is a skyscraper in Kirov. Id urges the troops to mobilize immediately, but Dolmatov expresses uncertainty about trusting him due to his appearance. However, when a soldier reports that Moscow is under attack, Marina convinces Dolmatov that Id is their only hope. Group 7 decides to descend the building to search for teams that did not signal with flares. Olga is frightened to attempt it, so Yura kisses her to calm her down and helps her descend carefully. As they walk through the streets, they encounter some civilians and kill them before attempting to communicate. Olga objects to this because they appeared healthy, but Yura reminds her of a previous incident with a seemingly healthy teenage boy. As if on cue, they are attacked by a new wave of mind-controlled humans. Despite losing their comrades, Yura fights back and sustains injuries. They flee to a garage for safety, where they treat Yura's wounds and find a car with keys and fuel to use for escape. At the base, Sasha reveals his fear of going with the team because he is certain that Ra saw him during the vision. Id agrees to leave Sasha behind to ensure his safety. However, when Dolmatov's team departs in tanks, Marina realizes that Sasha is missing and halts everyone's progress. Suddenly, a barrage of rockets strikes the base, causing it to explode. Marina confronts it, accusing him of being aware of the impending attack. Id acknowledges her accusation, but clarifies that if Sasha had accompanied them, the entire team would have perished, resulting in the loss of the war. The following day, Yura and Olga reunite with Oleg and Alyona, who are also low on ammunition and members. Shortly after, Dolmatov's team locates them and invites them to join the mission to eliminate Ra, with Olga and Alyona participating, since there is no base to send them to. The group eventually arrives in Kirov, and Dolmatov is surprised that they haven't been attacked. Id explains that Ra believes he perished at the base. The droned humans have blocked off the streets, and some of them are jumping from above with bombs. The army proceeds with the tanks, eliminating any enemies who try to stop them. Once they reach the skyscraper, Id takes Yura and a few soldiers to the roof, while the rest remain at the entrance for protection. The battle is brutal, and they are unsure how much longer they can hold out, prompting Oleg to escort the civilians upstairs. Once inside the building, they eliminate all enemies before joining Id and the soldiers on the rooftop to confront Ra. Yura attempts to attack Ra, but he easily knocks him aside, leaving him hanging on the edge. It then engages in battle with Ra, and their fight is evenly matched. However, Ra becomes distracted by a loud explosion on the streets, and Id takes advantage of the opportunity to remove a device from inside Ra's body. Yura quickly intervenes and throws a grenade into the resulting cavity, finally killing Ra. With Ra defeated and the device removed, Id uses his abilities to release all the mind-controlled humans. He reveals that the next step is to eliminate the aliens arriving in the spaceship, as humans were created to destroy. However, Zhenya questions why Id didn't warn them about this earlier, prior to the blackout. Meanwhile, Alyona and Marina oppose Id's plan for using humans in this way. When Id claims he is the deity that humans deserve, Zhenya attacks him with a knife. But Id uses his powers to make him fatally wound Marina instead. Oleg tries to assault Id in response, but Yura steps in to defend him, highlighting that Id is their only chance against the incoming invasion. A violent altercation erupts between Yura and Oleg, and Olga intervenes by shooting Yura when she realizes he's overpowering Oleg. Despite being stopped by Id, Zhenya attempts to attack him once more. Oleg contemplates killing Yura and eventually fires at Id, but the bullets are ineffective. Using his abilities, Id manipulates Oleg's perception to see everyone as his father, which temporarily confuses him. Nonetheless, Zhenya, who can detect ID's true location as a sensor, lunges at him, bringing him down to the ground with him. Both Zhenya and Id perish upon impact, As the fight concludes, a colossal spaceship lands on several structures nearby. Oleg, Alyona, and Olga take possession of the device id removed from Ra and depart, with Oleg refusing to finish off Yura. The group retrieves weaponry from the Fallen and infiltrates the spaceship, which had opened its door under the assumption Ra had arrived. Inside, hundreds of aliens are in cryogenic sleep capsules. When Oleg activates the device, oxygen begins flowing into the capsules, implying that Ra was responsible for reviving them. The timer on the capsules indicates that they will awaken soon. Although they confirm that shooting the aliens kills them, they lack sufficient ammunition and time to eliminate them all. Olga notices that the pipes carrying the oxygen are located on the floor, and destroying one results in multiple alien deaths. The group commences destroying all the pipes, thereby halting the invasion. However, as Alyona is about to destroy the final pipe, she hesitates upon realizing that it contains pods with children inside. The children emerge from their pods, and upon seeing them, Oleg is unable to harm the innocent beings and drops his weapon.